For those of you that don't know, LeetCode is an online platform with thousands of technical programming questions that deeply test your knowledge of programming. But often it is the case that if you're really good at building apps or really good in React, those skills do not translate well in LeetCode. The questions it asks are often very specific, very mathematical, and very tailored to test different areas of programming. So much so the problems you come across on LeetCode are realistically problems that you probably wouldn't face day to day in a job. But it's very common for computer science students to practice these questions consistently, as the questions asked often come up in technical interviews for software engineering positions. It's kind of become a way for tech companies to very quickly test your skills and select the best candidates for the role. It is something I've avoided ever since I started learning how to code. My approach to programming was always project-based learning. When I'm sitting at home watching YouTube tutorials, I'm very motivated, but nothing actually sticks in my brain by watching tutorials. The best way I found to learn is just by doing. Today I'm going to hop on LeetCode for the first time, and I'm going to see if my theory is kind of true, that I've learned enough to answer some of these questions by no computer science degree and just me learning at my own pace. I'm going to try 3 questions, one of each difficulty. I'm going to do easy, medium, and hard. So I'm setting some rules for myself. Obviously, no AI. I'm not allowed to copy and paste anything, but I can use AI to just look up basic programming information like how do you reverse an array or something. I can do that. Googling would have the same effect, just less efficient. So my first question of the easy difficulty was LeetCode 26, and it's titled Remove Duplicates from a Sorted Array. Whenever I first looked at this question, my confidence was actually pretty high. I've had to deal with removing duplicates from an array before. It was actually a big performance issue that I've had in my app. In React Native, the flat list, which is a component that lets you render very long lists, I had to remove all duplicate emails from an array, drastically improved the app performance. My first thought here was just to create a brand new array, and then with the original numbers we're given, iterate through each number and check if the number is in the array. If it's not, put it in. If it is, move on to the next one. Then we'll return that new array we created with only unique values in it. That technically works, but it's not very performant. As the array size grows, this would get exponentially slower, as well as it would need extra memory allocated. UI code extra allocations means slower rendering. However, even though it works, it was not within the constraints of the LeetCode question. So my next idea was to use a set. Basically, in JavaScript, a set is kind of similar to an array. The set has to have unique values, so you can't add a duplicate to a set, which is nice because it shortened the code to 1 line, but it still breaks the constraints. It's still extra memory, so it's still not allowed. So that did not work. When I looked back over the question, I previously ignored the in place, which was bold. I don't know why I ignored it. That meant that the next logical solution would be using pointers. In this problem, a pointer is just points to the position in an array. Think of it as having 2 fingers placed on the array. One finger is where you read from, and then the other finger is where you're writing to. And because the array is sorted, that means all duplicates will basically always be next to each other. So if the array looks something kind of like this, we basically say we start at the first number, which is obviously going to be unique. We go to the next number, we see that it's also a 0, that's a duplicate, we skip it. We go to the next number, we see that that's 1, that's different from 0, so we write it. Next number, another 1, so we skip it, and then it's kind of just that, so on and so forth. So the final unique count of this array would be 4. And this is what the final code for that solution looked like. The medium question, which was add 2 numbers, looked quite simple at first glance. My main focus was looking at the outputs. For example, looking at the first example they gave me, I thought it was super simple. I just need to reverse the order of each array, join it, add them together, then reverse and split the final output, which is what that looks like. It was actually pretty simple, but there's just one problem. L1 and L2 aren't actually arrays, they are classes. And I've never actually really dealt with classes in working just in React, so I did not know what to do here. My first kind of shot in the dark was maybe I made a function that would just convert it to an array and then deal with it that way. But then back to the same problem, the solution had to be of the same list node type, which mine wasn't. And I got this lovely error. With my little to no knowledge of classes, I decided to skip this question. I was scratching my head for a while, but I couldn't get my head around it. So this was a hard question, and I gotta admit, it was easier than the medium question. It had a higher acceptance rate, which may or may not have been why I picked it. In this question, you're given a string of lowercase English characters, and it wants us to return an integer with the maximum number of substrings that you can split it into. And each substring has to start with the unique first letter. I think a lot of things with these questions is they sound more complicated than they actually are. The word substring just sounds so complicated. My main focus in all these questions to really understand what they're asking is to look at the examples outputs they give. So in example 1, I can see the string is ABAB, and then the explanation is that you can split ABAB into A and BAB. But one theme I noticed across all of the examples is that the solution to this question is basically just find how many unique letters are in the string. Because in each example, the output is literally just the number of unique letters. So similar to the first question, kind of, I split the string into an array, and I created a new empty array called distinct that I would store all the distinct letters in. I went through each letter of the original string, and I basically checked if it already existed in the array I made, and if it didn't, I would add it. And then I would just return the length of the array at the end. This literally worked first try. Now again, I kind of picked this question because it looked easy, but it was just such a cool feeling. First try, putting some code in, hitting submit, and seeing no errors. That was so cool. Unlike the first question I did, I realized I can use a set. So behold my final simplified answer. It is literally one line of code. To be fair, I would hardly classify this question as a true hard question. It had quite a high acceptance rate. And it's in the bottom 20% in terms of speed and memory usage. But nonetheless, this one line of code solved the question. I can completely understand why companies examine their candidates based on these questions. To be honest, I cherry picked the questions for myself based on what I thought I could solve, but in an actual interview, I don't have the choice. I get a question in front of me and that's all. While scrolling through and cherry picking my questions, there was a lot of questions I came across that I did not understand. In my development journey, I've rarely, if never, came across pointers or classes or all those other advanced terms. It's definitely something though where if I had a job interview coming up, I'd be doing a couple questions a day. All in all, I think that it only helps your skill as a programmer by doing these questions. For a first attempt as a completely self-taught developer, I'm honestly kind of proud of how it went. So yeah, that's kind of it. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. You should subscribe because like 99.8% of people who watch these videos are not subscribed. See ya.